Hello and welcome to the Mount Rushmore podcast. My name is Jeff and I'm joined as per usual by my good friends Richard.
Hello.
And Michael.
Howdy.
Richard and Michael have spent 2 seasons debating and deliberating on the Mount Rushmore of any given topic, the things that most strongly represent any certain topic. And this is the beginning of season 3 when we're going to keep doing the same thing. But we've been away from each other for a while, had a break.
Thank God.
Each of us look kind of well rested, a little bit well fed.
Mm-hmm.
What have you been doing?
Everyone's tan. Everyone has a 3-foot-long beard.
Yeah.
As one does over the holidays in Christmas, during the Christmas season in Los Angeles, I spend most of my time tanning.
Yeah.
Tan.
Working on the tan.
I'm just stoked that President Trump has finally been impeached.
This is
okay.
fabulous
Now
news.
let's re-record that. I'm so bummed out that President Trump is still in office.
Well, what's exciting about the new year and the new season is a time to evaluate what you're doing with the podcast, and we hope that we have some new things that you might find impressive. The longtime listeners and new listeners, we have a lot of fun things to promise you, and we want you to think that we're a pretty fun podcast and pretty cool. And our subject is movies we'd show to aliens that would prove that we're cool. Who thunk of this?
That was me.
Why did you think of it?
I was watching a movie where humanity was battling with an alien. Some sort of alien culture. I can't remember which one it was at this point. But I figured...
The Spanish-American War?
Yeah. Topical.
Was it Top Gun?
But I thought, man, there are so few movies where, like, if an alien saw it, they'd be like, man,
Yeah.
I like those guys.
Oh,
or I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
like the, like, everything is like,
Yeah.
aliens. It's like, Independence Day. They're all coming to Earth to invade, or they're all showing up and we're just like rejecting them and blowing them up. And
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to start the new year on like a positive note of like, hey, what if there's a movie that we could show like these aliens that were like, hey man, we're cool.
Yeah.
Are you guys cool? We're cool. Let's all be cool together.
Awesome. So that's one thing that I was kind of curious as to whether it meant we are welcoming and understanding and erase.
It's all Rebel Without a Cause. No, it's all movies that they wouldn't understand the cultural references of. That really show just cool guys in leather jackets.
Okay,
that's
yeah,
what I actually.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, we might as well jump into it and see what comes out here. I've got a few things up my sleeve. As a judge, I'm going to be just a little bit more proactive and sitting back and kind of letting you guys step all over me like you usually
Shut
do.
up, Jeff.
Yeah. By the way, you should see the size of Jeff's sleeves right
Big
now.
sleeves.
They're giant.
Such
I
big sleeves.
almost cannot sit in the room.
Guys, I got a double gavel. Look at that. It's 2 gavels in one. It's like the double kick drum from Winger. Okay, all right. Richard, Michael chose it. That means you go first.
All right, so my first choice, speaking of leather jackets, Rebel Without a Cause.
I don't mind. See, I don't actually. A lot of these topics are so loosely defined at times. I could understand when we interpret things differently.
You think we're going down that path?
I don't know.
Okay.
Go ahead. Why Rebel?
Because I think that's when you think if an alien race were to come down and say show me somebody who's cool,
Yeah.
I would most likely show them James Dean.
You're tearing me apart!
What?
You say one thing, he says another, and everybody changes back again!
He seems like an alien in his own world.
In a sense, yeah. I mean, he seems like he's somebody who sort of exists a little bit outside of the norms of what we would consider to be like normal coolness.
Yeah.
Because he's just like that level higher. And I think part of this is that I'm assuming the aliens know nothing about who we are as a people, right? So I can kind of convince them that most of us look like James Dean,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, unless they have to see me, I'm assuming I'll be in shadows somewhere, just sort of like uploading it to them.
Always in shadows.
It's a good point.
Spend 40% of your life in shadows.
Well, it's it's mainly a tax dodge,
But if you were like a D&D character, you would invest all of like your initial hit points into lurking and skulking. Split them between lurking and skulking.
Can you get hit points for leering? Is that one that you can get? Yeah, I just think that having watched this movie a long time ago, and then it was interesting because I went to go see The Disaster Artist a few weeks ago, and that's kind of not too much of a spoiler alert here. That's something that Tommy Wiseau, however the hell you pronounce his name,
Yeah.
like saw himself as James Dean.
Yeah.
And of course, in that context, it's fucking ridiculous. But there is still something enduring about James Dean that I can't quite put my finger on it.
Yeah.
Why his level of cool is enduring or enduring, I should say. While like
Richard Grieco.
While Richard Grieco in 21 Jump Street, or while Martin Brando
Yeah.
in The Wild One,
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily transfer over. And I suppose most of it has to do with the fact that he died
Yeah.
very early and we didn't have fat James Dean
Yeah.
years, you know.
Yeah.
Fat James Dean. Jimmy Dean.
Fat Jimmy Dean.
Just loaded up
Just a
on
big
Jimmy Dean,
sausage.
just gravy and sausage, mainlining it in his race car.
My restaurant is located off I-6.
We talked about this. We talked about this a little bit in like Mount Rushmore of jackets last year, and also when we did our Halloween episode when we were talking about like the Ravenettes. I think that there is a iconic 50s cool thing that like it'll take a long time for that image to be killed.
Yeah.
Like I think it's so pervasive, and it's just like, oh, that you can look at that instantly and identify outsider, rebel specifically, and someone that is just like cool.
He does seem like blonde Elvis, who also has a vulnerability that Brando never really shared, and much of his Brando always had testosterone pegged to the max, and Jimmy Dean had this very feminine thing that I think people found very attractive. So, you know what? One thing that made me think of that, Richard, was the planetarium scene at the beginning of Rebel Without a Cause, and how if I was an alien and was observing that scene where in the opening of this teenage B movie, some people are watching a planetarium show where the Earth explodes.
Right.
I think they might go, well, at least they're self-aware.
Exactly.
they know what the fuck's going on with their planet. Okay, Michael, what's your first choice?
My first choice is Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
I'm seeing this shape. Damn it, I know this. I know what this is. This means something.
And it's one of the
What did
few
you expect to
movies
find?
that actually shows like a welcoming aspect to aliens.
Yeah.
Like no one freaks out unless it's against like the government turns on itself and turns on its people, but it never turns on the aliens and like the contact with the aliens. It doesn't treat them like hostile. It treats them with kind of an open hand and saying, we want to learn from you. And that's like something that you don't just see in movies. It's all, here's the aliens hovering above the Earth, and now let's blow them up with a rocket.
Yeah.
The actual aspect of like the third encounter, third kind, was based on this guy, Dr. Alan Hynek, who described the three encounters as the first encounter is just the sighting of a UFO. The second encounter is physical evidence to prove the existence of an alien. And the third is actual contact.
And the fourth kind is a,
I saw that.
up the butt.
I saw that movie.
Yeah.
Anal probe.
But they never explain it in the movie. It's just like a concept that Spielberg kind of went with, and they never like explained away what the three kinds of encounters is, which I think is interesting and would never be done in movies now.
Well, they told you all about it. The three encounters are
Yeah, the five tones.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's just
You can't speak that language. Idiot.
Yeah, you got to do it with the hand signals, and then it's shadow puppets. Another good way of talking to aliens is just like, okay, here's a butterfly, and here's a dove, and here's a dog barking, and maybe a rabbit.
Do you think the aliens would, let's say we like to see ourselves represented as strong and powerful or just charismatic on screen? Would the aliens think at the end when the pod opens and the alien race is revealed to be these skinny, anorexic, rubber-faced people and Close Encounters, do you think the aliens say, fuck that, I'm more like the Signs gonna kill you kind of alien, because that's more badass than...
Maybe they'd be like super buff, like all these, Arnold Schwarzenegger looking aliens just start coming out and just start flexing.
Yeah, just posing.
It's like Mr. Olympia, but like it's like here's the real Mr. Universe that comes out and starts showing their tries and buys.
That is the fourth.
I hear you have a Mr. Universe. Let's see him do this.
I won the actual Mr. Universe. You're just Mr. World.
I think the concept of aliens that are advanced, that can travel through space and time, it seems like their initial... It seems like the ideal thing is for them to be peaceful and just to spread knowledge and understand things rather than the initial, concept that we, I think, as humans tend to lean on, which is, well, they're obviously here to take our land and to enslave humanity and to, I guess, get our women.
Yeah. So these are fascinating. One, because I think, like, I didn't even think that aliens would necessarily have to feature in these choices.
No, they don't have to.
I didn't think either.
Okay.
They don't have to.
I was getting concerned that these were all like movies were showing aliens approve. Hey, we're cool, man. I got no beef with you.
Yeah.
I got no beef with you, alien dude.
Mm-hmm.
I was concerned based on the first round here that we were going into a divergent hellhole of a topic.
Well,
but I think we're okay.
Maybe
we'll
still go down that hellhole.
Oh,
God, we can hope.
Michael, this for the peel open the curtain here. Michael has wanted to do this topic, I believe, since the first episode.
Is that right?
Might have been one of the
first season at least.
This might have been one of the first topics we put down in the hopper. And I think I was a little concerned about it because every time I'd ask you, so what exactly is this? You'd go, I don't know, just stuff we show aliens to prove we're cool. That would basically be your response.
It's accurate.
So here we are.
Okay.
Well, it's a good thing I'm not judging it, and you're not judging it, and we got someone else employed.
That's why there's a pro over here.
Wait. I get paycheck. Holy fuck!
You get 1/3.
Super excited
of our of all of the money that we don't make. All right. So my second choice, I believe, is what you're going to ask me for, Jeff.
Yes.
If I can read your mind. Shaft.
Me and you gonna tangle sooner or later. Why don't you stop playing with yourself, Willie? You ain't gonna do shit.
Oh dear. Really?
You talking about Shaft?
I am talking about Shaft. Shut your mouth. Please be quiet. I'm talking about Shaft.
John Shaft?
Yes, that's accurate.
Okay.
And by the way, for the record, not the Samuel L. Jackson version.
No.
Which I'm sure was
the Richard Roundtree.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I would show this to an alien race, not just because Shaft's a bad
mother.
Yeah. I mean, primarily because of that. I would also show it to them to prove, hey, look, we've got different races down here.
Good point.
And
at least two.
I thought it was a proactive defense strategy. We could attack this planet, but there seems to be a very aggressive man in a black leather jacket.
I really do like this alien voice.
I want to know more about this alien.
It is kind of like Paul Lynde as an alien. John Shaft.
Well, they do. I mean, Shaft, that's probably the only rough part about this movie is they do have, if you remember, one of Shaft's like buddies is the very Paul Lynde barkeep. Yeah.
Is Antonio Vargas? Is that what he is? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, Antonio Vargas was a Huggy Boy from.
I thought he was in Shaft too. Okay.
Well, no, but I was. Where are we go? What happened here?
Just talking about Shaft.
But there is something iconically cool about Shaft.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he is every film noir detective, but crossed with like a 70s, black street culture hipness.
Yeah.
And then you've got the soundtrack, which might be, I can't say it's the best soundtrack of all time, but it might be the coolest soundtrack of all time with Isaac Hayes.
Yeah. Who,
by the way, also would be on the Rushmore of just cool ass motherfuckers. Mm-hmm. So you got Isaac Hayes, you got Richard Roundtree, you got The Jacket, and I didn't do the jacket thing twice in a row on purpose, but there we are.
Yeah.
Apparently the jacket makes the man, so to speak. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's why I would choose Shaft.
So what distinguishes Shaft from, is it his diversity that you would say distinguishes him from, say, just another cop movie or detective movie? Okay.
I think there's part of that. I think that as a character outside of just sort of the, I don't want to say novelty of the, this being the early 70s, and you hadn't really seen a lot of, really any films that had a black lead like that.
Yeah.
I think Richard Roundtree is a really underrated actor for this type of role. Like, this role could have been really badly miscast.
Yeah.
Even someone like Fred the Hammer Williamson, who I'm sure probably was up for the part at some point, or Jim Brown or something like that. I don't know that they would have had they would have been able to do the physicality of it. Mm-hmm. I don't know they would have been able to create a fully rounded character from this movie. Yeah, because it is a pretty broad character. Uh-huh. This is not Quentin Tarantino. In terms of the writing. Yeah. Even though he may be trying to remake Shaft over and over again.
Well, like Rebel Without a Cause, that elevated a B picture to an A kind of.
Yeah, I don't know that the coolest movies are necessarily always the best movies. Mm-hmm. There seems to be some sort of. As I was researching this, I seem to find quite a bit of a gap between quality. Not a huge gap, but Schindler's List is not cool.
Yeah.
If an alien did see this, they figured they'd be in trouble. Would they assume that there are just thousands of Shafts out there that if they step out of line, that they're just like
they're gonna get pimp slapped by Shaft? Yeah, that's kind of my other point behind this was that we need a defense just in case. Yeah, like on one hand it's like we're cool. On the other hand it's like we cool.
We cool.
That's kind of what this is.
The idea that you could outpower or out technology an entire planet is quickly eclipsed when you think they're fucking cooler than us.
Yeah, and also just is it worth the effort?
Is it worth the
effort?
If
you're dealing with 5 million Shafts, is it really worth it? Just go on to another planet that doesn't have Shaft.
Yeah.
Just move on.
A non-Shaft planet. Like Sirius of Rigel 7. There's no Shaft.
I have not seen a Shaft. I did not see a Shaft on there.
Okay.
Also, I believe none of the Amoons of Endor have a Shaft on it.
it's
Maybe a Billy D. Williams, but that's about it.
Michael, your second choice.
I have to assume that these aliens also have a good sense of humor.
Yeah.
1996's Mars Attacks.
What is that? White House is coming out live.
My fellow Americans, this is a momentous occasion. It is profoundly moving to know there is intelligent life out there. Alien life. And our world will never feel quite the same again.
Where?
Once you leave.
I was reading about that. The noise of the Martians is a duck's quack reversed.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. So think about ducks. Turn them asswards around. And there you go. There's a duck quacking. Is there? This is a really fun comedic movie. Probably his most, his biggest kind of broadest comedy, where he portrays these Martians that come to Earth, and humanity initially kind of is hesitant. And then they extend the kind of the olive branch, and they try to welcome these creatures from another planet to their Earth. And of course, something goes wrong. That these doves that are released are, seem to freak out the Martians, and they start killing a bunch of people. And I do like that initially, all the leaders and the president, they're like, well, maybe we just misunderstood these Martians. And then they invite them to Congress, and then they just blow everything up. And we just realize, that these guys are just here to have fun and kick ass and destroy everything and have a good sense of humor about it.
I remember not shifting gears with Tim Burton for this film. I remember thinking I was going there expecting Pee-wee or Batman or something like that, and having a hard time seeing Nicholson in a comedic or multiple comedic roles.
And Glenn Close.
But definitely from a positioning standpoint, if aliens were to see this, I think, these guys are having a lot of fun.
Yeah. Sure, at the end, they get their kind of comeuppance when they're, felled by...
Slim Whitman.
Yodeling country music.
Yeah.
The dumbest... I love that with all aliens, the dumbest thing kind of takes them down, whether it's water or just, breathing the air or country music. It's never we've blown them up with our technology. It's just they just kind of die.
Yeah. Or we're able to get some sort of code into their main line of their computer with our Apple IIe.
That's a dumb. I mean, that movie is dumb.
So dumb.
But I expect that these higher intelligent beings also have a higher sense of, a good sense of. They can poke fun at themselves. They've probably dealt with Martians.
Yeah.
These aliens from another universe or another galaxy, they've probably flown past Mars, and they're like,
we hate Mars too.
Yeah, these guys, we've already been there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's Yankees suck. We all know. Yeah.
It does have a pretty cool cast too. I mean, you got
wild.
the aforementioned James Brown
Yeah.
and Tom Jones.
Yeah.
How much cooler do you get than that? I mean, come on, right there. You're in good shape,
Yeah.
coolness wise.
But isn't
I mean, terrible pick, Michael. Awful.
Isn't that the rendition of the alien from a Topps trading card or something like
Yeah,
that?
1962. Topps. It's ridiculous that was like Tim Burton's pull.
Yeah.
Or whoever was the original writer for it. I'm sure it
It was Alex Cox who did
Oh, it
Repo
was?
Man.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And
Walker and
Sid and Nancy, right?
Sid and Nancy.
Mm-hmm.
The idea of beginning from a piece of popular culture kind of makes that film a piece of pop art because it's certainly obeying no strong narrative, and it's just about these larger than life characters. And
I love that the aliens, just the way the Martians, the way they just have such a good time destroying all of man's greatest achievements, and just
Well, I think it's versus Independence Day, where showing like the destruction of all these like historic incredible places is shown in like this very like dramatic like, oh my god, what are they doing here? It's like, oh, it's fun.
Yeah, they're carving their own
Face
faces
into Rushmore. Yeah,
into Mount Rushmore. They're knocking over like the Eiffel Tower or like the Washington Monument, and they're just like trying to crush people.
it's the type of destruction you would see in a Looney Tunes cartoon when somebody is like Taz is like destroying different like landmarks.
all right, guys, we are at our halfway mark. This is a wonderful, wonderful moment where I get to implore you, the audience, to download, rate, and review our past episodes, but also support a fine organization that's supporting us, the Mount Rushmore podcast. And you, the listeners of the Mount Rushmore podcast, can receive from Audible a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial to give you the opportunity to check out their service. If you are interested in aliens, maybe you could download and read Not Alone by Craig A. Falconer. I'm not sure about this. I think it might be softcore porn.
Oh, I'm interested.
Yeah. So that is one of over 180,000 titles you can choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, MP3 player, or Merlin. Do you remember Merlin? It was like a red brick that had about 7 buttons on it. It was basically like a calculator.
Oh yeah, I
It made
remember you could
noise.
play little games on it.
Yeah, little games and things
Sure.
like that.
How about your Simon? Can you play it on
probably
that?
put it on Simon or something
Cool.
like that.
Not my son Simon.
No, that's
weird.
What's weird? That's weird. But you, the listener, can go to audibletrial.com/Rushmore, audibletrial.com/Rushmore to sign up for your free audiobook. And hey, since you're already on the internet, go to iTunes, or go to Stitcher, go to your go to your podcast aggregator and grab the latest and the late episodes of our podcast.
Latest and later.
Later episodes of our podcast. Or earlier. And download, rate, and review them because it helps other people find us. And then go join us on the dialogue about the shows that we're going to do in this third season. You can still help us shape this third season and help shape the dialogue by going to the Facebook Mount Rushmore page and Instagram and Twitter and stuff.
Yeah, I'd love to like bump off some of our crummy ideas with your crummy ideas from the list of things we're recording. So
Yeah.
Sure, yeah. Because trust me, I've looked at the list for this season. We could use some help, boys and girls.
Guys, I got something in this bag right here. And it's called the Borglum bag.
Is it a snake like Jake the Snake Roberts?
You don't know what's in this bag yet. This is Gutzon Borglum's bag. Gutzon Borglum, who was he? He was the guy who chose the presidents who were honored on the Mount Rushmore monument. And he is the namesake for this bag that I'm holding right here. And in this bag, the judge is allowed to place and seal and shut tight his choice for the category. And one of you guys has to try to beat this choice. Otherwise, I'm going to take my choice instead of you, and a point will be removed. I will get the point. And inside this bag, I'm going to open it up. I usually like to dig deep, back. But I've got a current movie, and it's called Guardians of the Galaxy. And this is one of my favorite newer movies for a couple different reasons. It has hints of Star Wars, this scrappy ragtag band of misfits who kind of come together to try to save the galaxy. And it has elements of, I think, the movie Princess Bride. There's this ragtag band of misfits who band together to try to save the princess. And it basically has, I think,
Ragtime music.
Ragtime music. It would show aliens that we Earth people listen to kind of cool music, and it would show Earth people that the world that aliens live in is kind of diverse and crazy, and they're a bunch of weirdos, and there's a lot of adventure to be had. So I'm putting this back in the bag, but one is you got to beat the bag. You got to beat the Borglum bag.
Oh, I've beat the bag before.
Yeah. Okay, so
what does that even mean?
I don't know. I like it. I liked it.
It sounded good, but I don't know what it means. Yeah.
Your third.
It's Guardians of the Galaxy. No,
the fuck?
Just kidding. That would have been fantastic, though.
Maybe I shouldn't have opened the bag.
Yeah.
Note to self: close the bag.
Premature bag opening.
I saw them open for Henry Rollins. I had to say that.
Yeah, of course you did. My third choice is The Professional.
You can't stop what you can't see.
This guy came from the outside. He was a pro. He was fast.
In The Art of the Kill, Leon was the master.
Somebody's coming up. Somebody's serious.
He never missed a hit. He never got caught.
You're indestructible. Bullets slide off you. You played with them.
And above all else, he never had a reason to care. Until now.
I like these cars.
It's great.
It is a great movie. And I think I put this on here very much because I think Luc Besson is not necessarily a great filmmaker, but he makes great visuals. And he does great things with film, even though overall, I'd say throughout his career, the entirety of his career, it's pretty messy. He makes very messy movies.
Yeah.
And I would argue this and maybe La Femme Nikita are the two that are the least messy, and the two that I think are the most.
The story is focused
that are actually based on a story
because
and
they're not
characters. Because they're not in space, and maybe it's because it's not just about the visuals. I almost feel like that sometimes he gets so wrapped up in the visual aspect of his movies that even his garbage movies, like I didn't see the Valerian, blah 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 garbage one. But
I've heard it's actually quite good. The opening, like I watched, strangely enough, my stepdad Morgan, hi Morgan, who we listens to this podcast.
Oh, hey Morgan, what's up?
We one of the things he requested for Christmas, a gift, was Valerian on DVD.
Oh, okay.
And I had no real knowledge of the movie. I think it kind of came and went, and sometimes those movies or some movies just don't get the same kind of push. But like the opening title sequence was like,
that's
fabulous.
That's the thing I read. I remember seeing the trailer for it when I went to go see Guardians of the Galaxy 2, and it was a 3D trailer and I had the glasses on. I thought, oh my God, this is like seeing Avatar, like that in terms of like how beautiful and like just different it looked. And then I don't know, man, every review I read was like, first scene's great. Once you get to the actual plot, boom, thumbs down.
Is he like the French Terry Gilliam?
Yes.
Where like he just has a visually just a set idea about what he wants to happen, and then like he kind of gets in his own way a little bit.
I think there's an element of that.
I feel like he's also the French Wachowskis because he takes us on these epic intergalactic trips that seem to be full of sound and fury.
True.
But at the end, you walk away going,
The Professional was definitely stripped down.
Yeah, now that we've talked about his space operas, let's get back to talking about Jean Reno as
What I loved about Professional is you have an adult who is childlike and a child who is very adult before she's
should be.
Yeah.
Precocious to the extreme, as in firing off guns.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to me. I thought about this, and my first thought was, I'd show this to an alien to show, like, hey, we've got hitmen.
Yeah, we got this guy.
Back off this guy will fuck you up, kind of in a Shaft sort of way. And then I realized, no, he's not the cool one in this movie. The cool one's Natalie Portman's character.
Yeah.
She's the boss in this movie. She is the badass. She is the person who has to deal with, her family being murdered and having to go on the run, and still manages to retain sort of her dignity and her sense of worth, and all the while being like 12 years old or however old, 10, whatever she was.
That was one of the movies that
So
started,
she's really the cool one, you know?
started the countdown clock. That and the, I think, movie Beautiful Girls started
Yeah,
to
got
her
a
age
little-
of majority.
Got a little awkward without that.
The Madonna, does she dance to like a Madonna song? Or
Yeah,
something
something like that. But yeah, I mean, that character is the cool character in the movie. I think Luc Besson does especially back then, did a much better job relating to female characters than he almost did to male characters. Especially these sort of like female characters who are forced to be empowered by certain forces outside of their own. But, you know, Jean Reno gives a great performance in that as well.
Is there a reason why this and Shaft, I think you've made statements, but I just want like more support here.
Sure.
Why Aliens? I mean, why these are definitely cool movies with cool protagonists, but why would Aliens give a fuck about this versus something else like a Die Hard or a Bourne Identity? They're like,
well, I think with this one specifically, what I would say is like, look, if you're coming here to start trouble, we're not going to stop. Like the humans have like a resilience behind them.
Yeah.
You know, much like Natalie Portman's character, or you know, or even Jean Reno. Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Didn't want to do the whole episode. His name's actually like Frank Reno.
Just call him Terry Gilliam.
Frank Reno. But both their characters have sort of like this drive and this like ability to persevere.
Yeah.
And I think that's a character no matter what the aliens are coming down for.
I
would like to show them that.
It does seem like the report that the underling alien always gives to the alien general is they have inferior technology, but they are crafty and strong. They always reporting to them.
Fall back to Praxis 9.
Those guys are idiots.
We can't possibly defend them in this apartment block. They will blow us up with a grenade.
They will blow us up. Michael, what's your next choice?
My third choice is, we need to show these aliens that we're good people in spite of being so desperately flawed.
Yeah.
2008's Wall-E.
Wally. 10 seconds to self-destruct. You are now free to move around the cabin.
Just a trim? You look gorgeous.
Where the lead character is this robot who's part Charlie Chaplin, part Buster Keaton, part Harold Lloyd, part R2-D2. And, the first half of the movie is told basically as a silent movie. It's told with visuals and it's told with, a modicum of like sound effects and music, but it's not told with a language. It's not told with anything that you would need to translate other than what you see on screen.
Yeah.
And the way the Pixar and Disney was able to bring humanity to this, square block on wheels with these big dopey eyes. And it was just, I think it's one of their best movies and one of their most like human and touching, in spite of it being initially about robots. And, it kind of turns into this movie about human consumption and human sloth and, kind of abandoning the planet.
Yeah.
But it takes like this other little blocky robot to kind of pull humanity back to show them that there is still something in the earth that is worth kind of getting out of that funk for.
Yeah. I wish this movie was French or foreign or something like that, because I feel like Pixar tells these beautiful stories that if they were translated from another language, I would imagine there's a cultural gap that I'm missing. But like, I love the first half hour of Wall-E. I love the first half hour of Up, and then it just becomes a pie fight to me to get to this conclusion that I just don't even understand why the conclusion. So I loved seeing Wall-E, seeing this character, the nuance, the way without words you can illustrate this guy who, and I think that's true of great animation. These characters are total of their behaviors and actions. It's not what they say, it's what they do. And I think they define this amazing character with such grace, and then Eve comes in, and then you go with fat people on a spaceship, and I just stopped caring at all about this thing. I don't know why.
That's interesting. It also has Fred Willard.
I love Fred Willard.
Hold on, let's see if I can just throw in a few. It's got a good Hello Dolly reference in there. Do you love Hello Dolly?
So far, I feel like there's the showing. If we were to convince aliens that we're cool, is it because we're showing our humanity and our ability to understand our own flaws? Because that's what I think Wally does really well, is show the human condition.
Yes, definitely. It's here is a alien culture that is obviously far advanced beyond whatever we are as these kind of babies in the universe. And they probably do have these aliens. They probably do have. I had to check myself there on just referring to these things as like real things that actually happens versus just our imaginations.
Yeah.
But they have obviously in this fictional world the ability to destroy us.
Yeah.
They have mastered themselves to the point where they're working together to get off their own planet and to explore the universe, and they have a technology and a weapons and a whatever. Like they have gotten past the point where like they're arguing over religion and borders and states, and for them to not like just be like, okay, you guys are worthless. It's it's like when you think of like the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. They view the Earth as just a thing that's in the way to build their expressway.
Yeah.
And at some point, you're just like, no, we actually have, there's a goodness here.
Right.
But, the Vorgons are like, well, you had your chance.
Yeah.
You're no one actually cares. You're insignificant. And I think that part of this, or my idea behind this thing, was just to show like, oh yeah, we're worth something.
I think the roles in Wally, the robots, Wally the robot has become human, and the humans have become these robotic people who just are consumption machines.
Sweet irony.
What I love about the idea of aliens coming to Earth is that by the time they get here, they still have all the might and power of this conquering colonialization type of race. Not like, say, a guy who drives his Ford Pinto from New York to LA and just comes in just on fumes, doesn't have any money whatsoever. I would love if they showed up and they're just like, their ship has like 0 battery. Their cell phones need to be charged. They got no money.
I like that.
And you're like, oh, are they going to conquer us? Bro, we just need...
we need to get to the next town.
Can we just like shack here for like a night?
Isn't that Paul, basically? Right?
Is it Paul? Oh, I never
the
did
movie
see
Paul.
that.
I think that's roughly the plot of the movie.
It's one of those movies that I think I know I've seen, but I only like have like the faintest memory of.
It's I would say fitfully entertaining is a good way to put it.
It falls into that. Oh, was that an Edgar Wright movie?
No,
but like it was. But it had the two guys.
But it had Simon Pegg and Frost. Yeah.
So it's like you're like, oh, it had them, but it wasn't quite as clever as and as well done as the other two.
It was like their Pineapple Express
5 or whatever they've done together.
Yeah, basically.
Richard, your final
countdown.
Can you make your final choice?
Oh boy. My last choice is the first, I think, truly independent movie I really remember as a young adult getting into high school-y, early college. And it is a film by a filmmaker named Hal Hartley called Amateur.
Do all women have hair between their legs like this?
Yeah, I guess most. There's a woman on page 22 who doesn't.
Can I keep this?
Belongs to a friend of mine. I gotta give it back.
Look, a new Sophia Loden's movie.
Came out in 1994. And if you haven't seen it, and if you're not familiar with the oeuvre of Hal Hartley, if I may speak French, he was kind of a filmmaker, I think. In many ways, he was Tarantino without the weaponry, or a somewhat less mordant Whit Stillman, if that makes sense.
Well, he had an ensemble of characters, especially
Martin Donovan,
who he reused, and there seemed to be a type of intellectual elevated dialogue and storytelling that he used from one thing to another. But why is amateur the one you choose?
Well, first off, I'd forgotten this until I was doing the research on it. So the title amateur is actually partially a acronym that brings together all the elements of the film. And so I think it kind of shows a little bit about, I would want to show the aliens, I think, all of the best and worst of humanity.
Aliens love acronyms too.
They are.
That's a fact.
Alien is an acronym in of itself.
A life is extra
neat.
Nutella.
That's true.
Is it new?
Is it Nutella?
Nutella.
Oh, awesome. So it's accountancy, murder, amnesia, torture, ecstasy, understanding, and redemption. That's what
it is.
It stands for.
Those are his themes.
That's basically the themes that are going through this movie.
Wow.
Martin Donovan, who as you mentioned, plays Thomas, a character who just wakes up in a gutter and has amnesia and has no idea who he is, how he got there, anything about himself. Winds up getting taken in by Isabelle Huppert, if I may again mangle some French. This is the Richard Mangles French episode, pretty much. Who plays a ex-nun who is now a virgin nymphomaniac writing very bad porn.
That's a mouthful.
It is.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's a lot of. That's a lot of stuff to carry on like your business card.
Yeah, it is. Mm-hmm. It's a business card that actually folds out like a billfold or something. That's the type of movie it is. It is very much a. When I watched this movie, and I'd watched this a lot when I was in college. If you were to ask me, Richard, what are the qualities that made an indie film in the mid '90s? This one would have like all of them.
Yeah,
irony, kind of humor, but in a very sort of dry, sort of and understated sort of way. Like when it like I think Martin Donovan asked Isabelle Huppert's character about, well, wait, how can you be a nymphomaniac if you've never had sex? And I think her response is, well, I'm just choosy. Mm-hmm.
It's in New York.
It's set in New York. The cool New York of the mid '90s. It's shot in a very specific, like it's almost got a bit of a blue tint to the whole production, which kind of gives it this sort of edgy, hip kind of vibe. It also had one of the coolest soundtracks of the '90s. I mean, if you were to sit down and say, okay, what did college rock? Grandpa, what did college rock sound like in the mid '90s? It had My Bloody Valentine, PJ Harvey, Yo La Tengo, Liz Phair, Pavement. So it was, I think actually that's how I came across the movie, was working at the radio station and listening to the soundtrack and looking at it and seeing, oh, these are all people who looks like this should be a cool movie. You got, characters with Betty Page haircuts and a tight vinyl dresses. And you got Martin Donovan. Then you got this dorky looking guy with like the accountant who's got like the crazy hair and it. I think again, I would show this to aliens if we're trying to prove how cool we are.
Hear that music? It's me, George Washington, founder of the country. The first
Mr.
president.
Washington, how are you?
Greetings. I don't know where I am.
My cap, sir.
I doff my tricorner cap back at you. When you speak of this New York.
New Amsterdam. I'm sorry, sir.
Amsterdam. And it had the cool haircuts. And it had all the.
It had the cool haircuts with the clothes and the songs. They had music, and it was slightly
music,
less,
like on a harpsichord.
Slightly less jaunty than the music you may have been familiar with in your youth.
Yes.
More feedback. Did you have feedback on your harpsichord?
Some kind of. If I'm really going to town on Turkey in the Straw, and a harpsichord spring,
your wooden teeth would rattle.
Little teeth will rattle. Yes. Sometimes you hear the tea kettle humming on the burner.
And I would say, Mr. Washington, beyond the plot, this is a story about redemption. And it's a story about being able to move on from your past. And I think that is something that if I were to show aliens, I would want to prove to them that as sort of a culture, as a society, humans, we are people who are able, we are kind of a race who are able to forgive. We have kindness in our hearts, even if you make mistakes. So, Mr. Alien, if you happen to show up and, accidentally crash into the Eiffel Tower and knock it down. Whoops.
Oh, my bad.
We're willing to say that's your bad. As long as you apologize about it,
we
and
could say
feel very bad.
No harm, no foul, as we say in the Revolution, the American Revolution.
Was that in like the turkey?
That's
forms?
Right.
I'm glad you guys changed, by the way, that the turkey was wild turkey wasn't the.
That Ben Franklin, him and his crazy ideas, a foul idea.
Was he loaded on absinthe?
That's right, a wormwood. Oh, gosh. Yes, Ben and those French prostitutes. His body is riddled with scurvy.
Michael,
this is the best thing of the new season. I can't wait till Roosevelt comments on some shit.
I have to.
Time warp closing. Must go back.
Jeff,
what's up?
When you went out to the bathroom right now, you missed it.
Thing.
Oh shit!
And we went to the Hall of Presidents.
Are you serious?
And George Washington showed up from the Hall of
Wait, from
Presidents.
Disneyland?
Yes.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, strange.
Was he as rickety and bad in performance?
Yeah,
in life as he is in the Hall of Presidents?
Pretty much as we would expect. Yes.
Well, I guess Richard, you're next. Oh, you just went?
I did.
I missed
Did you miss that whole part? Sorry.
Well, I see some notes here, so maybe I'll go on the notes. Michael, what's your last one?
My last choice is, what if these guys are actually dorks? Listen, they're aliens. They're space guys.
Yeah.
They're
the scientists.
They're the scientists.
Yeah.
My next pick is the Lord of the Rings trilogy from 2001 to 2003.
They don't have time for that shit, Michael.
No, okay. There's two reasons.
They don't. They're aliens. They're busy. They're busy. Not people. Whatever they are. They don't have time for that.
Reason number one.
This is three movies, not one movie.
Also, yes.
Well, that's fine.
Okay.
One, we need them to show this movie. We need to show them this movie so we have time to organize. And get out of town or mount our defense.
So this is extended.
The extended Blu-ray cut. We can even kind of force them to watch like the director's commentary afterwards. We can show them all the making of. They'll be into that.
Yeah.
So we got a lot of hours just to prep blowing them up. Because honestly, at this point, fuck these guys.
Zircon.
You come over here to our planet. Fuck you!
Zircon, your wife looks like Gollum. She does not. Hey, he's kind of right, Zircon. Shut up! So this is a strategic move.
Zircon, you put the orc in dork.
So it's just a long movie. You could have shown them anything.
No. There's another reason. That was the funny joke reason, which wasn't that funny.
Okay.
Not that much of a joke. The second reason, there's two big scenes, and they're in the Two Towers and in Return of the King, that speak to this kind of overall sense of humanity that I think that I keep trying to get back to. One is Sam and Frodo are in like the town of Osgiliath, and the Nazgul are flying over, and Frodo, it's always fucking Frodo, who like has lost hope. He's weighed down by this ring, and Sam gives him this big impassioned speech about what they're doing and what's worth fighting for. And it's just this beautiful scene, and we'll play a clip from it, but like it's about hanging on to all these things that are what's good in the world. And no matter how desperate you are for that things may seem, that you got to persevere.
Yeah.
And then the second scene that I specifically was thinking of was they're climbing in Return of the King. They're climbing up the steps of Mount Doom. And Frodo is done again because this guy is he's lazy. He's, kind of a jerk. And then Sam is like, he comes to his rescue again, and he kind of shows him, he's like, listen, I can't carry this ring.
Come on, Mr. Frodo. I can't carry it for you. But I can carry you. Come on!
This isn't my task, but I can carry you. And the music swells.
Yeah.
And he throws him over his shoulder, and he's hiking up this thing towards Doom, literally. Yeah. Towards the impossible. And it was just like this. Those two were these beautiful moments that these two humans, hobbits, share. They're basically humans.
Yeah.
That they share to show that you can persevere through all sort of
Yeah.
trials.
And the least of us shall be the ones who lead the way. I remember the corniness of some of those moments, but also having a tear going down my face because it was just so moving.
Also, it's got these cool dragon things, and I mean, the aliens must be impressed with some stuff like that, like the big fight scenes. That's cool.
Which of these do you think? Do you still think they have those big giant guys?
There's no way that Legolas could ride down that Oliphant's tusk and take him down with 12.
No way.
So wait a second. Couldn't the giant eagles just come down the whole time? This is really confusing.
Don't you understand the concept of catastrophe?
Wait, big spiders. Game over. Game over. Shelob, I don't want to mess with that.
I love that dwarf.
Well, that's a compelling. It sounds like you're firing on two different barrels there. There's the showing the resilience of the human condition, and then just from a diversionary stalling tactic alone.
Sure.
So yeah.
I mean, that's at least 9, maybe 10 hours that we can get our missiles locked and loaded. I mean, it doesn't take that long to shoot down missiles from Russia or wherever, North Korea, wherever they're coming from in a week? We're about a week out from that.
This alien conversation. This is a long movie. Do you think they're stalling? I haven't seen them in a while.
I have to take a restroom break, and I don't even use the restroom. Our bodies are not like that, and I still really need to pee.
I haven't heard from those guys in a while.
Poor Boromir.
I can't believe they're TVs. This is Andy Serkis guy. What a hack. Okay, so, wow. This is pretty exciting. This is some really great choices in really expanding on my understanding of what it would take, or really expanding on my understanding of the topic, and that is what movies we would show aliens to prove them that we're cool. Richard, as usual, you are concerned with showing your strength and power and might. I mean, Richard's the guy who's always kind of flexing. He's the guy who always grabs the jelly jar to show that he can open it.
To be fair, Michael has trouble with jelly jars.
Yeah,
it's a problem that he has.
It's spindly.
A mental issue. It's more of a mental issue.
It totally is. That's
fear of jelly jars.
I try wrapping it on the edge of a counter. Doesn't work. I try the spanking it on the bottom thing. Doesn't work.
Doesn't work.
I give up pretty quickly.
Here, hand it to Richard.
If I was climbing up Mount Doom, I would be like, nah, we're done. Forget it.
That looks really high. I'm out.
So, Richard, it seemed like you were talking about how you can demonstrate coolness and just kind of strength through kind of these characters like Shaft or like the Leon and the Professional, and like how cool little Jimmy Dean was. Michael, it seemed like your theme was showing compassion and kindness for the most part, showing these Earth people as people who can understand people from another planet, or people who have a compassion for growing things, or at least a sense of humor with Mars Attacks. So I thought it was neat that I felt like I was able to, on rare occasions, suss out your thinking in regards to that or the choices. But these are the choices that I have made. Okay, Rebel Without a Cause is one of my favorite movies, and I don't know if this was part of your justification or not, but I loved the intergalactic scene at the beginning. Made Rebel Without a Cause a very unusual movie at the time, and almost did paint Jimmy Dean as this kid who comes from another planet, not just another town. So I'd like to have that be one of the choices. And Lord of the Rings trilogy, I think that was a fun pick, and like Michael said, it's operating on a couple different ways from a stalling tactic alone, but also depicting images of these scrappy, resilient people, and also big orcs and giants and things like that. Close Encounters, I dug that one. I think that's one of it almost felt like an indie film about aliens, or like 3 Days of the Condor, or something that had a government conspiracy and that showed the complexity of the relationship that we can have in regards to aliens. And then the final choice, opening up the bag. Jeff Hopkins picking Guardians of the Galaxy. I like that choice, Jeff. Thank you, Jeff. I really appreciate it. I think it's good that you, as a judge this season, are really kind of, swinging your dick around.
What does President Washington think about this real quickly?
Do not let authority go to your head, young man. I was president, and then I decided one should not be president permanently. there should be term limits.
No, I meant real quick, Mr. President.
Back.
Does that hurt when you do that, by the way?
God, yeah, it's a wormhole through time. There's a woodpecker on my dentures. Ow.
What I meant more was...
Hold on. Where's the cherry tree? I want to start chopping.
Who's your favorite Guardian?
Of course, it's Star-Lord.
Who?
It's Chris Pratt with abs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Welcome to season 3. We're glad to have you back as listeners, and new listeners, we're glad to have you joining us. I am always Colonel Washington.
I am Teddy Roosevelt.
I'm Michael.
Colonel Washington. You got demoted.
I guess, yeah. It's like Colonel Plum or something like that.